Hi, my name is Dan Haley. I'm the treasurer of the Academic Senate. Part of the reason we invited you here today is we are trying to resolve a number of shared governance issues without going to court. And what we are running into is we're supposed to come to mutual agreement. We're not coming to mutual agreement. Status quo is not being kept. The administration is making changes that affect students and faculty, and we're wondering if we have any recourse here. I'll give you an instance. The calendar issue. At one time, 2 years ago, we had a calendar with a winter intersession. The administration proposed changing it to eliminate winter intersession, not just cutting the classes, but just eliminating it for now and forever. The students were opposed to it. The faculty were opposed to it. We did not come to mutual agreement. The superintendent recommended to the Board of Trustees that it change to eliminate winter intersession, and they did. So status quo was not kept. There were no compelling financial reasons or organizational reasons. So we're wondering what recourse do we have? It seems like participatory governance here is out the window.
So let's walk through our flow chart perspective on this. I want to clarify that in a pending legal matter, the participatory governance is not a subject matter. Is that correct? It's a terms and conditions issue only. Okay. Does it have a significant effect on faculty, staff, and students? Yes. Then, okay, now we go to our 10+1 list, right?
Right.
Now, where would we find it on 10+1?
Number 4 and number 5.
There's a very good question. Is block scheduling, education program development, and standards or policies regarding student preparation and success?
Yes.
And that is one of those kind of more grayer area issues.
I'll jump in on another one that might be. Just to add in another thought, because one of the things that happens on a block scheduling is the way that the curriculum can be delivered in that particular time frame. And often what we have recommended at the state level is that curriculum committees actually identify courses that can be taught in a reduced time frame. And so if you're going to talk about like a winter intersession or a block schedule or something where you're going to change the way the content is delivered, that needs to have some engagement from the faculty perspective through the Senate. So while it may not say it specifically in one of the 10+1s, what you're looking at really is the faculty members' ability to successfully deliver the content to the students and the students' ability to successfully learn that content in a different kind of a time frame. So the faculty should be involved. The Senate should be involved in that. Now, how that plays out may turn out to be that some courses work, some don't. It may turn out to be that some programs are very excited about alternate scheduling. But it's the way that the content of the course is delivered, and that's where I would find it in the 10+1.
So if we assume it is in 10+1, then number one, there's going to be a pathway for students, certainly, to have input, because it still has a significant effect on students. And then it enters into the mutual agreement. So there is an obligation by the decision maker to initiate a conversation with the Academic Senate in a reasonable time frame. And this, again, gets into the reasonableness. And if any of these issues ever end up in court, that's what a judge is going to look at. Did the parties act reasonably? And so a reasonable time frame, might be a month in between board meetings. As long as the Academic Senate, not a month in July or August, but a month during the academic year, an attempt to reach mutual agreement. And then, I think, if we're going to go against the interests of the Academic Senate, then we have to document those compelling legal, fiscal, or organizational reasons. Now, frankly, on all of these, I think most of these issues, there can be a case can be made that in the last 5 years, there was a compelling legal, fiscal, or organizational reason. So the question is the process by which the decision was made and whether there was that reasonable opportunity to seek mutual agreement.
I would agree that if the goal is to find ways to increase student opportunities to take classes, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's looking for better ways to provide opportunities for students to learn. Package it this way. Some are accelerating classes, some are modularizing, stretching out, some are grouping 8-week courses, some people are just now adding back winter sessions and summer sessions. Wonderful opportunities for students, no doubt. But all of that affects curriculum. All of that affects delivery and opportunity for students to be able to actually be successful in those courses. What support services are available? Are the tutoring centers open during those times? Is the library open during those times? So when you change something that has such global effect, and you know it will, and that because that's the intent, is to help more students, then think about it globally. If that's going to be the case, then engage those folks. So the Senate should have been involved and had an opportunity to comment on the possible effects that this would have on all kinds of aspects of learning. And that's where you really want to be able to bring those folks in, use their expertise. Get the librarians, get the counselors, get those tutoring center and learning center people in to talk about how you can do this in a reduced or changed or modified format so that the students have the best options. And that's where student input and certainly classified staff, if you're going to have, no opportunity now to upgrade your technology. This is a big thing in my campus. When we start having classes all year round, there's no downtime for technology upgrades and the lab overturns, or all of that kind of stuff. So it has a big impact on staff too. So keeping all of that stuff in mind, think more holistically about the campus, and now all of you that are here today have heard that. That means you have to champion the opportunity for other groups to be involved. So faculty, you're going to have to champion the right for classified to be involved, because you've heard now they have a right to be and have that reasonable participation that affects them. Students, if you hear about stuff, you got to say, hey, did you talk to the Senate about that? Because doggone, that sounds like something in the 10+1. So you guys have to help each other. You're hearing now about how we have roles and responsibilities. Maybe we didn't quite get it before, thought it was hands off or all hands on, and now you got to find a way to help each other.
Well, and oftentimes we talk about that issue. If it's a 10+1 issue, I like to say the academic senate should drive the bus, because the goal should be getting everybody in alignment with the decision, administrators, faculty, staff, students, and as Beth mentioned earlier, deliver that to the board. And there's nothing the board likes more than for everybody, including, the business folks that have to sign off on a balanced budget, for everybody to come in and say, we're in agreement. That's what boards like. Boards don't like division. Now, one issue that we have to ask is on this, was there reasonable consideration? And the documentation we've been given a lot more on these various issues, there was constant talk about over the objections of, which if I'm a judge reviewing this case, I say, well, clearly there was a reasonable opportunity because there was time to develop objections. And so then you have to, was there good faith? Those sorts of issues, and then compelling legal, fiscal, organizational reasons if it was a 10+1 issue. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could recommend strategies for working through different interpretations of what falls within the scope of 10+1, because I think that's something that we struggle with. One example is in the block scheduling. I was recently at the statewide chief instructional officers meeting, where they highlighted block scheduling from their perspective was absolutely not a 10+1 item and was an operational issue that chief instructional officers should seek the input of faculty informally, but it did not have to come from the academic senate. So how do we...
Well,
yeah.
There's two pieces there, right? And we have to separate them. Because the Academic Senate is the voice for faculty on the significant effect issues. And absolutely, block scheduling would have a significant effect. Gray area on exactly how expansive is educational program development and policies and standards related to student success.
And I'll follow up on the chief instructional officers, or that's mainly your VPs of instruction or academic affairs, and they do have the right to schedule. You know, that I totally get. They're enrollment management experts. They need to look at that. But if you're changing the way the curriculum is delivered, then that should go to the Senate to help them understand what that's going to mean for redesign of courses or repackaging of programs. So it is a big deal for the Senate to be involved because it's about delivery of the curriculum. Now, if it's just saying we're going to schedule classes at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and all the way into the evening, or we want to make sure there's Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday options, faculty are going to be good with that too because they want to serve students. But if you're talking about compressing time or extending time in terms of how the content is delivered, that affects the curriculum and its programs. And if you want to have a plan of how to do this, you can always ask the Senate. You don't have to say, well, I'm going to make a call here that it's not a Senate thing. And then the Senate goes, what? You didn't ask us? Why not ask and let the Senate, have that conversation? They may have their exec team look at it and say, we're going to try to get some feedback for you, but we're going to, let this be handled this way, or we're going to let curriculum do it, or, there's different ways to approach it too. And I hope that, again, that's goodwill. And I know there's some expeditious reasons, right? Gosh, we want to get this done. We want to have a new schedule for next fall. Let's try to, gear up here. But you want to make sure that you get people buying in. So let's find out how we can ask.
Well, and, people say, does this process, is this goodwill crap you keep throwing out there?
Goodwill crap.
But it does work. There are a lot of college campuses where they've made very difficult decisions and they don't have an overly cumbersome process. They have a well-functioning college council and relationships, including some of the largest districts in the state have moved through very difficult processes, with a lot of it being done informally, where the Academic Senate takes a pass because you have a strong Academic Senate president. This is one of the problems at City College San Francisco. They had such a bad committee structure that there was no power to the Academic Senate president. So that president couldn't take a pass on issues. Everything had to be sent down to a specialized committee, which is a disaster. So creating a culture where some difficult issues can be made, but be made by the affected unions, the president, the Academic Senate president, the students, kind of less formally and not sending everything down through that framework I talked about. We want to come over here. Is this directly on block scheduling?
I just wanted to clarify our block scheduling, when we did the block scheduling here at Pasadena, it wasn't really centered around anything other than trying to create some kind of regular start time for classes. In no way did it change hours that were met, days of week that were met. It changed maybe someone starting at 8 o'clock instead of 8:20 or something like that. It was really trying to do that. So it didn't really affect hours of instruction, modes of delivery, or anything like that. It was centered around creating a unified start time, because we didn't have one. And we had some classes that would meet 3 days a week, start at 8 a.m., 8:10, 8:20, or whatever. So that's really what it was about to make that decision.
I have a question also on block scheduling. I just been on 2 accreditation meetings, so had been training 9 times. All right. And one of the things that now it says you must check and make sure every single class has the Carnegie hour, unless there is a tentative reason not. Now, it would appear to me that that would be something that the district is going to look at. Each one will look at very, very carefully. And if, for example, the faculty feel that it's better to have 35-minute classes or 40-minute classes over a longer time period, that doesn't meet the Carnegie hour. And this is a class that's taught everywhere in the United States within the Carnegie hour. Could you respond to that? It seems to me like that's compelling. That the college has a compelling district meeting the accreditation standards, particularly that one, which is
Well, that's up to your curriculum committee to determine, because the faculty are going to propose the appropriate numbers of hours of instruction for that class, right? So they're going to say it's a 3-unit course. That's typically about 48 to 54 hours of instruction, depending on what your semester runs in terms of days and weeks. So if that's the way the course is structured to deliver the content, 48 to 54 hours of instruction, then you have to figure out how to do that in a week or whatever your time frame is in order to get that content delivered appropriately. Now, what you also want to do on the enrollment side is make sure you're meeting your student accounting principles so that you're not losing any FTES, because you're going to meet the Carnegie Hour through your curriculum committee, but you don't want to lose FTES by the way the class is offered in the number of minutes per day. So there are two sides working together on this, as opposed to opposite.
You don't want to go beyond the accounting principles on generating additional FTES, which was one of the reasons some districts had gotten a little too creative and had to pay money back to the chancellor's office. And one last hand on this issue, and then we've got to come to the microphone.
Each board meeting, we have roughly 30 minutes for all faculty and students to get up and speak to our board members. And that's, with regard to the Brown Act, it's 30 minutes max and no response. Would you consider that an act of goodwill?
I'll say it.
Political question doctrine.
Yes.
Legal people in the room.
What I'll say is that that's pretty common around the state to have set a specific amount of time for public comment. In fact, within that, the speakers are probably restricted to the amount of time they get to speak as well, which is pretty common. The fact that the board doesn't respond to any of the public comments is also pretty standard. And I facilitate a board, and that's the way we run our public comment, exactly the same way. We give 30 minutes for items not on the agenda, limit the number of minutes each speaker can speak, and we do not engage those speakers when they speak to us. It's a time for individuals to address the board, not to debate or engage with the board. So if the board wanted to have that kind of two-way conversation on items, you would have to have a different kind of a structure other than a traditional board meeting, would be my understanding. But again, the goodwill is sometimes jeopardized by structures like the Brown Act and what it allows us to do in that kind of a time frame. How you bring your goodwill and intentional good faith effort to the table to solve problems can be handled in lots of other places other than at that formal time of a board meeting. But I'll let Scott also.
Well, and that is not meant to be the point for every reasonable consideration. The reason we have multiple readings for agenda items is to allow for a period of formal communication. Board meetings should not be about formal communication to the board. That should happen generally in writing and be done in advance of the board meeting, and ideally it gets incorporated into a board packet or something. So public comment is something we like to express our frustration to public bodies, and I've done it myself, but it's not meant to be the formal consultative process that we've talked about today. But it is about, the overall sense of goodwill. If you're constantly having board meetings where there's a great deal of frustration, that's something that you need to work on as a college, and it's not something that we can fix. Colleges sometimes have to bring in therapists or communications professionals that can talk through with the major constituencies how to foster a better culture.
Hi.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. No, it's good. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Stephanie Fleming. I'm a faculty member. And I guess my question is more about the overall effectiveness of our shared governance model here on our campus. There have been a lot of focus so far today on the rights and the responsibilities of each one of the constituency groups. And we have a lot of conversation about that here on our campus. But unfortunately, it's also made us very territorial. And so a lot of what we're doing on our campus is focusing focusing on a fight over who gets to do what. So, for example, I sit on the Academic Senate, and a lot of our focus in our agendas is about that territorial aspect of 10+1, rather than a discussion about how 10+1 items can serve students effectively, how we can promote learning, how we can foster student success. And so my question is about how do we get to a point where we can collaborate? So to give you a little bit of context behind that, because of the tension specifically between, say, the faculty and the administration, anyone who collaborates across those boundaries faces a lot of scrutiny on our campus. So, for example, there's actually a proposal going through our Senate Bylaws Committee right now that would redefine regular faculty, and faculty who receive reassigned time for collaborating on projects like assessment, accreditation, professional development, or those faculty who represent our honors program or our veterans would essentially no longer be considered regular faculty and would have their voting rights and their ability to serve on shared governance stripped from them. And so as someone who's facing that consequence, because I work with accreditation, I don't see the goodwill in that. And so I'm wondering, how do we get to a place where we're using shared governance to collaborate and to serve our students effectively, rather than this fighting and this tribalism that we seem to be facing right now?
You know, you're at a point of reset. You've been through some tough times. All colleges have. And, you know, and I've been, you know, down here before, done one of these before. It's not the current administration. There have been tensions for many years. And the good thing is we are at a point of reset. The budget news is good going forward. And, you know, very few issues in my mind, you know, are 10+1 novel issues that you go through the flow chart. These decisions should largely already be made through your planning processes. So how do you have effective planning processes with buy-ins of the affected constituencies and an agreement that when we have to make good or bad decisions that may be 10+1 or just a significant effect, we already have an agreement on our values and our processes that we refer to when we make decisions. And so you pull a lot of that busy work out of you know, the meetings of the Academic Senate, of the formal processes, and did it go to that committee or that committee? That's what I've seen in best practices. People just, they know what our values are, they know what our direction are, we bought in, we may have won some and lost some, but we know when we're gonna add 5 full-time faculty, we already know where we're gonna do it, well in advance of that decision. The student equity plan I referenced. Some colleges are gonna wait until the budget is signed, and therefore September 15th or whatever, to start that process. Well, you're supposed to be doing the student equity plans every year anyway. You know, so that's kind of what I would offer, and I think the cultures in which it's just kind of, everything is all part of the same planning process, and that's where we go to for the incremental decisions. Those are the best practice colleges I've seen.
I'm really sad to hear that faculty are being targeted for participating in governance, because that's what this is all about. If the Senate is charged by the board to reach mutual agreement with them on all of these 10+1 areas to help move the college forward and meet its accreditation obligations and do what's right for students, then faculty have to engage. You have to. So if faculty are engaging in that process because that's what we've agreed to do, and now they're being challenged because they're participating in that process, faculty through the Senate need to stop and figure out what they value. If you value your role in participatory governance and you're going to take on your responsibility as the active participant for your faculty organization as a whole, then you have to be supported by your Senate for that work. You are their representative. You are their agent. You are the liaison to bringing that information back to the Senate so that the Senate can be engaged in a participatory governance process. If faculty are being chastised for that, or they're now going to be considered less than other faculty because they've engaged in participatory governance, then you guys have a long way to go to furthering to develop really the roles that we have here. And we're going to need to think about some educational opportunities perhaps for some ideas or values of the Senate. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn and maybe don't know the whole situation as well as I could, but I'm here to encourage all of you, and especially the Senate, to look at faculty roles and support each other in those. Find a way to figure out how the faculty can participate effectively so that the decisions are the best ones that can be made. So I hope I'm not out of line. Yes?
Thank you.
Did you have it?
Yeah, I was just wanting to say that I guess what you're talking about is like what I think a lot of us here do is participate in the self-government or governance, but we don't get paid anything extra. What's happening is that a lot of people, because of accreditation, have been given sort of administrative duties and to behave in an administrative manner, and they're getting paid for that separately. So to us, that's a different animal, because a lot of times these people are the same people who then get promoted on to permanent administrative positions. And so we end up feeling like when they were acting on our behalf as faculty members, that they already were in their hearts and primarily more of an administrator. And so because a lot of this, and this is a result, and I'm not on that committee, and I don't really know the details, but I am on Academic Senate, and I know that there's a lot of sort of like distrust about there being a bright light between what does come from the Academic Senate and what does come from this administration, so then we can come to a mutual agreement rather than having this sort of pretend like that's the voice of the Academic Senate when the academic senators or faculty are feeling that maybe they're not. And I'm not saying that that's always the case, but I'm saying that there's just this level of mistrust in that area, and that without addressing that we're not going to be able to move forward.
Okay, let me address two parts to that. Number one, it wasn't in our slides, but it's really important to note that the Senate has to appoint all faculty members who are serving on academic and professional matters, committees, task forces, whatever. That is the Senate's job.
Not done yet.
Very critical piece of information for the Senate to talk about. All appointments of faculty members to shared governance, participatory governance work must go through the Senate. The only caveat is faculty appointments where there are collective bargaining issues need to come from the union. So on some issues, you need both Senate and union reps there. So then each house gets to do their appointments. But if it's academic and professional, then the Senate needs to step up and make those appointments so that those folks are accountable back to the Senate.
But that's for committee work, not, I think what's being talked about is release time.
So that's my second one. So second thing, on reassign time. I strongly encourage you to find a process, if you don't already have one, that reviews the scope of the work that's being outlined to determine first if it's faculty work. And if it's faculty work, then figure out how to come up with the right way to recommend someone to do that faculty work and get reassigned time for it. So we had to do that at my campus because some faculty members either wanted to do work that was like administrative type stuff, they were done in the classroom, wanted to find a way out, so they were creating work for themselves. They were recommending themselves for the work, and there was no oversight, not by the Senate or our union, and the administration was like throwing their hands up. Gosh, we got these faculty who want out of the classroom. We're happy to give them the work, but dang it, we don't want the union coming down our back about this. So we came up with a process that first said define the work and explain why it's faculty work and how much reassigned time it takes. Get both the Senate and the union to sign off on it before you even talk about a person. Nobody's applying for this work until both sides agree and recommend to the administration together that it's faculty work that needs to be done, and here's how much reassigned time it takes, whether that's your SLO coordinator, that's your professional development coordinator, that's some new grant thingamajig that comes down the line. If you're talking about getting reassigned time and that you need to design this position, this work, and it maybe is squishy between faculty and administrative stuff, define that, because if it starts to leak over into administrative work, your Senate and union reps ought to be able to clarify that ahead of time and tell the administration, this is not faculty work. You need to assign somebody else to do this, because this is not our job. So that's what I would encourage you to do, and then your appointments need to come through the appropriate bodies to get that done.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because as someone actually on the bylaws committee that Stephanie just referred to, therein lies the problem, and we are just trying to address that because that hadn't been done here, as you suggested. We're trying to go for full faculty representation in all our duties there. So thank you for mentioning that, and I don't think we're being chastised here at this school for participating in shared governance. That's not the case at all, okay? Good. But yeah, my question is back to what is considered reasonable? And when you mention reasonable, are you just referring to the time frame? And then also compelling, because regardless of whether the elimination of winter in the calendar is a collective bargaining issue, it sounds like it also is very much a shared governance issue, and that has been overstepped here. As Dan Haley has said, there was no mutual agreement to begin with, and then the compelling legal, financial, or organizational reasons. That's my question also. Who determines if it's compelling? And perhaps you mentioned also writing to the chancellor's office and then court. So it sounds like it's both collective bargaining and shared governance. So do we have what's compelling, what's reasonable? Thank you.
Let's use an example of plus-minus grading. Significant effect on students and faculty. Subject to 10+1 and in consultation with students, give every reasonable consideration. So first we're going to go through 10+1. Faculty say this is a great idea. Students say this is going to affect transfer GPAs and we're opposed to it. In my mind, so we have to mutually agree with the Senate. Although, if the students are loudly objecting, that could be perhaps a compelling organizational reason why not, if it's found that, well, this is going to affect transfer and it's going to hurt our students. So how is the decision made? So this is a decision that's going to go to the board, and ideally, in the world I recommend, that process is outlined in the board agenda item. And the positions of the different organizations is put into the board item and is orally presented by the administrator, or let's say it's the Senate providing it. The Senate says, we really believe this is the best practice. The state Senate says, do it. I'm not suggesting that. But, and this is why we're coming forward with this. Unfortunately, the students are opposed for these reasons. So having a process where you can document that the positions were presented is the reasonable consideration. Now, reasonable also has, is a time issue. So doing the decision in the month of July, when the students are gone largely, would not be reasonable, nor would it. So you have both, you know, it could be 3 months might be unreasonable at some times of the year. At other times of the year, that's way, you know, far more time than you need. You know, board meetings, you know, many decisions can be made in the 2 weeks between board meetings on issues that have, you know, that are a significant effect on faculty, staff, and students that aren't 10+1 issues.
Yeah, and I'll just stick with the plus and minus grading, because we did that at my campus. And so let me talk about how we made sure it was reasonable, and then we can talk about compelling. So some faculty at our campus, actually part-time faculty, brought a proposal to the Senate to go to plus and minus grading. They were really jazzed about it, thought it was really a good option. They were tired of giving the same grade, letter B grade, to students who barely got over 80% and students who were at 89%. They really wanted to do plus and minus grading. And as soon as the students got, the Student Association saw it on our agenda, then they were really interested. What's the Senate talking about? Plus and minus grading. We better go and find out what's happening there. And our Senate did reach out to the students ahead of time to say, student organization, this is something you guys need to know that we're doing. We are going to be talking about this. We're not going to rush. We're going to spend all year talking about it. It's not going to be fast because we got 2 colleges in our district. If we make a decision, it's got to be both colleges. So just to let you know, the other student organization's going to weigh in. And we just kind of laid it out first. We're going to talk about this. We got this proposal coming forward, but we're not going to hurry it. We want to hear from you guys. We did all the calculations. The transfer center did all the calculations of a GPA before and an after, and so we, you know, talked it through, and we got recommendations from other campuses in the state who had done this already and how did it turn out, and you know, what did they like about it and what was bad, and the students were really struggling with it. You know, they could see the data, and the biggest concern for them were students who got 4.0s under the old system would not have 4.0s under the new system. And that was a real big problem for the students. Faculty were not so worried about that. They really wanted those students who earned a 4.0 to really earn a 4.0 and not have it be this big range anymore. And so that was the sticking point right there. That was the only sticking point for us. The students who had 4.0s were worried about losing them, and the faculty who were awarding all the grades felt that this was a better distribution of actual student achievement, going to plus and minus. So it took about 2 years to work it through. Finally did. Both campuses agreed. The students actually were concerned, and that was what was expressed to the Senate. It was expressed to the administration. It was expressed to the board that that's what they were worried about. In the end, the compromise that was made so that there was more flexibility was that teachers could decide whether they wanted to use the plus or minus grading system. So that meant that some faculty could still use A, B, C, D, F, and others could implement plus and minus grading. And it just had to be in the syllabus so that the student knew ahead of time how they would be graded, whether that teacher was going to use plus and minus grading. So what we felt we did was try to give the most opportunity for students to understand that if they were a 4.0 and they didn't want to take a teacher with plus and minus grading, they could opt out. That was their choice. If they were willing to sign up for that teacher with plus and minus grading, then they had to earn the highest grade in the class in order to keep that 4.0. Now, in terms of compelling arguments to the board, I think the board was very happy to see that sort of a compromise and the amount of time we took to work through the issue rather than just say, the proposal came to the Senate on the beginning of the month, and by 2 months later, we'd made the decision and we were going to implement, and it's done. But we took the time to allow for lots of engagement. Now, that may not work every place, may not work with every Senate and student organization and board, but we felt that that was a better approach to help the board understand that all of the opportunity for comment from individuals who might be affected by this had an opportunity to be heard, and we had an opportunity to review the data.
Now,
We'll get to you in a second.
if the data suggested that there was going to be a drop in transfers, and the Academic Senate brought this forward, and the board wanted to go the other way, that might be a compelling organizational reason. You say that, we're in an era of, measuring metrics and all of those things. Here is why we can't accept your recommendation at this time. Or you rely primarily or mutually agree. But yeah, so that's, I think, what you're looking for is when would you have a compelling and not accept a decision?
Well, who would decide if what the board has decided to do was compelling? Is that a court?
That would be a subject matter that, the academic, the state chancellor's office is the official body that would receive a complaint and may or may not be able to respond to the complaint because of staffing issues. And so therefore, it could go to court. Now, there's really only been the one significant case, a couple of minor other issues that have gone on over the years.
Yeah,